Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Hesse Bros Pod. It's your boy Brent Hesse and joining me, my brother Luke. Luke, wow, we had a furious finish to the end of the NFL season. Both of us needed a little bit of time to take to cool things off after a sad finish for both number one seeds from last year's playoffs, Kansas City Chiefs and the Detroit Lions. For me, it was the Chiefs just absolute decimation on Thanksgiving, then losing to the Texans. We talked about that, and then the season really came to an end at home against the Chargers on a potential game-winning drive. Mahomes gets hurt. Minshew throws an interception. Season's over, and Mahomes' season's over, all in one fell swoop. So a tough finish for the Chiefs, who did not win a game the rest of the way and managed to score one touchdown in 3 games without Mahomes.
Yeah, that was crazy that the Chiefs went from, usually a pretty good team to watch for the past few years to being some of the most unwatchable football of all time, Brent. And the Chiefs, they're in a spot where Kelsey's probably going to retire. Mahomes is banged up going into next year. But do you think they can rebound going into next year, Brent?
I certainly hope so, but I don't really know why there you would have that belief because you watch this team without Mahomes and they look really, really bad. They lost to the Raiders, who already locked up the number one seed or the number one pick, and the Titans, who are right on their heels for a top pick. They just got flat out played by both those two teams without Mahomes. That just shows the drop off that there's. This team is not as talented as they used to be. It was clear this season the way that they were having to fight and scrap and claw for every win, and were barely still in the playoff hunt before Mahomes got hurt. That they needed a reset. They're going to need to get different coaches in there, I believe, especially offensively. I think the offense was very disappointing. It doesn't matter whether you have Mahomes or not. You should be able to score more than one touchdown in 3 games, especially with Andy Reid, who's a great offensive mind, and Nagy's been a former head coach, and clearly I don't think he's cutting it as offensive coordinator. So I want to see a change in the offense and the coaching staff, and then a lot of personnel changes. They have to get better guys in there. Of course, now Rashee Rice, hopefully he comes back, he can be healthy. Xavier Worthy was very disappointing this season. Kelsey, I hope he returns because he's still their second best weapon. Right now, behind
Yeah.
Rashee Rice, he's still the second best weapon that the Chiefs have. And this isn't even to say when will Mahomes be back? Will he be back by week one and he'll have no training camp and have to ease his way back in? Will he be back middle of the season? Who knows? So, to be honest, I don't think they're going to be able to rebound all that well next year. I think next year might have to be kind of a bridge year to get out with the old and in with some of the new type of players. And my expectations will be the lowest for Kansas City going next year, I think, since before Patrick Mahomes even took the field. I think even lower than the first year that he was a starter. I expected more than I'll expect next year. So the answer, I guess, is no for if I think the Chiefs will rebound next year.
Well, Brent, you say that now, but the offensive line got completely decimated there at the end of the year for the Chiefs, and that same thing happened to the Detroit Lions, and that's kind of why I feel like we saw so much of this game comes down to the offensive line, gets overlooked all the time, and that's why both these teams fell apart at the end, and especially for the Chiefs, who have absolutely no run game to begin with, and then now you take that into account, guys are just teeing off on the quarterback. And that's why Minshew got hurt too. They had to go to the third string. So I think that if they get their offensive line back, which was pretty solid at the start of the year, and hopefully get a running back in there, maybe they can, have some sort of other threat besides needing Mahomes to carry them every single game, which doesn't seem like it should be that hard of a thing to do over the offseason.
Yeah, the run game's going to be big. I mean, by the end of the Raiders game, they were under the fourth string. Oladokin was gone, and then came Shane Buechele. So I'm sure a lot of people weren't tuned into that barn burner, 14-12. The what was it? 4 field goals and a safety game for each team had 4 field goals, but the safety was just the difference there in that one. Very exciting game in Vegas if you missed that one, but we won't spend too much time recapping that one. We'll go on to another disappointing team, Luke, and for the Lions. what they got on Christmas was just straight coal. Ended their season in a game where I thought they were going to be able to cruise against Minnesota. Minnesota could not move the ball, but the Lions could not keep the ball. And what really cost Detroit, which ends up being a failure of a year, even the big man himself, Dan Campbell, said that in his final press conference of the year.
I mean, like I said, it was the offensive line. We couldn't block anyone, and Goff is just getting smacked around back there. It happened in both games against the Vikings. We win one of those games against the Vikings to go 3-3 in the division overall, and then we end up making the playoffs. And anything can happen in there. It's wide open this year. Just couldn't get it done when we needed it most. We needed one play against the Steelers, one play against the Rams, damn near, one play against the Vikings, stop them from getting that long run, and we still probably end up going down and winning the game. Like so many games, we just did not have the juice this year, and that's what it comes down to in the NFL. And it's rough whenever you don't have a whole secondary either. That just gets hurt, and we're gonna be able to run it back next year. Hopefully, we can get an offensive coordinator that can, run the team. Because what we saw is Dan Campbell took over the offense, and it ended up being a better offense, but then the whole team chemistry, I feel like, was just off after that, letting Johnny Morton kind of go there midway through the season. And you could tell it took a hit on the whole team. We were not on the same page because that's what Dan's job is, keep us all together, and we didn't have that in the back half of the season. Why we lost all those games in a row. So I think we'll be able to bring it back next year. Not too worried about it. As long as the Bears don't actually end up being a real team, because I can't stand having them if they actually end up being something good. But at least we were able to sweep them this year.
Yeah, got the sweep against the Bears, just swept by the Vikings, so that is a tough one. And the Packers, I guess. It wasn't good for either of those two. But I guess we don't need to bring that up. I'm glad you still have some belief going forward, Luke. But it's time for us to turn our attention to some other teams. Hesse Bros done talking Chiefs and Lions this year. And we're going to start with the game of the week, Luke, which might have been the game of the NFL season. The final playoff spot on the line between two former MVPs, Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers. And it was a back and forth fourth quarter shootout in which both teams just went down the field. And it was the Steelers who got last call and win that game to send Rodgers to the playoffs with the Steelers. Luke, how impressive was Aaron Rodgers in that game of the week?
He was absolutely on point. And with having no DK Metcalf, the way he was able to carve up that Ravens secondary, it was electric. And he was fired up too. That was such a crazy game. Like, there was 4 different possessions at the end of that game where I thought the other team scored too quickly. And it started with that Ravens Zay Flowers touchdown. I'm like, I don't know if that was great for them. Obviously, they needed the touchdown, take the lead. But then you're giving the Steelers that much time. Rodgers can go down, get an easy touchdown. And, of course, he does, but then that was too quick. Ravens go down, score. Steelers go and score too quick. It's like, that was absolutely insane. And, of course, comes down to the last-second field goal that the Ravens kicker misses. I mean, that was quite the way to end the season. And, of course, it ended up with the Ravens just absolutely blowing another season like it has the past couple of years in just a fashion you could not predict. How did you feel about that one, Brent?
Well, I thought that I kind of had a different feeling in that fourth quarter just because the whole rest of the game, neither team could really get much going. Steelers only scored 3 points in the first half. The Ravens, outside of that very first drive, they didn't do anything until the fourth quarter either. So I kind of felt like any of those were going to be the game-winning drive. But then there was just the big one. Kyle Hamilton gets hurt for the Ravens, and their defense looks so out of sorts without him. Rodgers did start being able to pick it off. The Ravens' pass rush is non-existent. That gave him so much time. And Lamar made some great plays. I feel bad for Lamar because I love watching him play. And outside of Mahomes, he's my favorite quarterback in the NFL. So I was wanting to see him get in. But, I think that I don't know. I think there's just so many coaching mistakes that happen with the Ravens every single year because, like you said, they just find ways to lose games that they should not lose. And that was another instance where you can't get off the field at all against Rodgers. You've got cornerbacks slipping on plays. You've got guys tripping over each other when you're trying to defend a tush push. Like you don't even know what you're doing half the time. And then I thought that in the end of the game, you've already seen Boswell just miss a tough field, an extra point. It's a very tough place to make field goals. It's probably the hardest stadium in the NFL to make field goals. You've got Derrick Henry. You've got a timeout. I would have liked to see them try to run the ball and get further down the field instead of settling. I know it's a 44-yarder, whatever that is, very makeable. It's more likely made than missed, but why still not try to get one more play on the field when you have the time out there and trust your offense that had been able to move the ball to maybe pick up 5, 10 yards, maybe house it.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's a good point. And I think all this culmination of coaching issues is why Harbaugh is out the door now, and Lamar's going to have a new head coach for the first time in his NFL career. So hopefully that'll work out good for him. But he's done for this year as well. What a crazy year for the AFC, and it's absolutely wide open.
It is wide open. I think it was time. I'm glad that Lamar's going to hopefully get a fresh start in Baltimore with a new coaching staff, and we'll see what happens. So, but those are three teams that we like to talk about here on the Hesse Bros that are all gone. Ravens, Chiefs, Lions. So we're going to get into the wild card matchups, Luke. We're down to 14 teams left. We won't be talking Broncos or Seahawks this week as they've got the byes. So we're going to get into the wild card matchups. Look, this is a team that you predicted to win the division, and somehow they did. It took a little bit of outside help, but the Carolina Panthers will be hosting the LA Rams in the first game of this wild card weekend on Saturday afternoon. And the Panthers are the biggest dog of the weekend. 10.5-point home dogs. Panthers have already beaten the Rams once this year, Luke, in Carolina. What would it take for the Panthers to pull off the upset again?
I mean, it's going to take something very similar to what they did before. Need I remind you, I think they went perfect on fourth downs, and Bryce Young was absolutely getting dots. They had 2 touchdowns on fourth downs in that game, and Stafford threw a pick six, and that was still barely enough to get it done. Can lightning strike twice for them? Probably not. They're probably cooked. But at least they made the playoffs. Those Black Cats did not do me wrong, even though the Lions ended up with a better record than them and missed the playoffs, which kind of sucks to think about it like that. But, yeah, I think they just have to do that same thing. If Stafford plays even remotely to the level that he's played this whole year, which I would expect him, he would be able to do that. I mean, he should be able to just absolutely torch this Panthers secondary, and it shouldn't really be a problem for him. They should be pretty comfortable. And with Adams having his first game back here, getting him involved in the red zone, like it's just a cheat code having him down there with their tandem of backs, Corum and Kyron Williams. They've been doing a good job of keeping them both, fresh by giving, like split carries the whole year. So they should both be ready to go, especially Kyron this playoffs, which usually he's getting a ton more carries than he got this year. So I think it's going to be a tough out for the Rams.
Yeah, I think the Panthers are very much up against it. You already talked about Adams coming back for the Rams, and they're getting a couple other guys healthy. That's the one thing. Since they lost that Seahawks game and kind of knew they didn't have a chance to win the division, get the 1 seed, they've been able to take Adams and give him time to come back, and now Adams' family will be ready to be back. And for the Panthers, this is a team that's limping into the playoffs. They've lost their last 3 games and somehow still backed into the division championship. So, yeah, I don't see much going on for them. They'd have to force a bunch of turnovers and, like you said, just execute really well, keep the Rams off the board. The Rams defense has been suspect at times this season, so maybe the Panthers are able to hang around, but even the 10.5, I think, is not going to be enough for the Panthers. So I think I'll take the Rams minus 10.5 and expect a 2-touchdown victory for Stafford to cruise into the divisional round.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I'd take the minus 10.5. There's no reason for them to let their foot off the gas. And this is just not the team for the Panthers right now. That, like you said, they've been slipping and barely found a way in.
Now let's go to the second matchup, Luke. And this is a familiar one for you. Sorry, I didn't mean to rub it in, but the Lions, they went 2-0 against one of these teams, but 0-2 against the other one. It's Packers, Bears, an NFC North matchup. And the Bears, who won the division, Luke, are 1.5 point home dogs. What is the key matchup here? You're familiar with both teams. What do you think this game is ultimately going to come down to? A game that came down to the final possession in each of the regular season matchups.
I mean, this is a game that's going to be won in the trenches. I feel like it's got to be just both O lines against the D lines. I'd say specifically the Bears offensive line going up against the Packers front. Having Parsons out is huge for them, and you know the Bears are going to want to run the ball in this one. It's going to be real cold and windy in Chicago. Ben Johnson's going to want to just run the ball out and be able to, get his points that way. You don't want to have to rely too much on Caleb Williams in this one to make a bunch of really good throws, because I feel like that's a way they can give it away in his first ever playoff game. Meanwhile, if the Packers are able to let it be, a game where you can air it out, I could see them taking it down with Jordan Love and some of those receivers he's got, while the Bears have a decent secondary, but not really that solid at the end of the day. So if the Bears can keep it as a ground and pound and rely on that offensive line that's really, taking a huge step this year compared to last year with their new additions, I think that's the way that they'll be able to get it done.
And they have had a great offensive line, like you mentioned. The Packers' most recent real relevant game, they obviously didn't play anybody in Week 18, but was a big game, standalone game against the Ravens, in which they got just gashed. The Ravens said, we're going to run the ball with Derrick Henry all night long, and the Packers had no answer for it. So that is a concern for the Packers if the Bears line up and are able to do something similar. Obviously, Swift is no Henry, but they showed a big weakness there without Parsons on that defense last time out. They've been banged up, but now they're getting a little healthier too. They're going to get Jordan Love back. So what do you see happening in this one?
Well, Brent, you know what's a crazy fact about this game? Both these teams' last wins were against each other.
Really?
And, yeah, the Packers' last win against the Bears 4 weeks ago. The Packers have lost 3 straight since then, including one to the Bears. Where the Bears have lost their last 2 games since that. So, yeah, pretty crazy stuff. Both these teams are also kind of limping into the playoffs.
Absolutely.
But I'm thinking the Bears are going to be able to get it done. Just like I said, they're going to be able to run the ball. That home field advantage in Soldier Field is probably going to be just enough, and the Packers are just so beat up. I mean, if they had Parsons or Tucker Kraft, and those are just 2 huge pieces that they're going to need to be able to win this one. Josh Jacobs, he might be ready to go, and if they're able to find those run lanes against that Bears, front, maybe they will be able to get it done. But I think that the Bears are going to be able to run the ball and really take control of it that way.
I've been on the Bears in each of the 2 regular season matchups against the Packers, and somehow I got the iron pulled out of the fire right on time. In the last one, it took an onside kick in overtime. And just watching those games, it just looked like the Packers were the better team in both those matchups. Jordan Love's back, so I'll take the better team. I think the Packers just I've seen them play for a full 120 minutes and even a little bit plus out of overtime. And besides the final minute and a half in overtime of the one game, and that was when Love was already knocked out of the game, the Packers have looked like the better team. So I'm going to ride with Green Bay this time and say goodbye to Chicago. So we're on opposite sides on that one, Luke, as we move over to the first AFC game of the playoffs.
Yep, and this is going to be a big matchup. The Bills at the Jaguars, and this is Josh Allen's time because Lamar and Patrick Mahomes are out, Brent. Do you think this is the matchup, or this is the moment for Allen to be able to make his run?
It sets up that way, doesn't it? It appears that way because you've got no Lamar, you've got no Mahomes, you got no Burrow. Those have been the big 4 quarterbacks in the AFC, and they're all gone. But the problem for me is I think this is the weakest Buffalo Bills team that Allen has had in the last 4 or 5 years, since really maybe his rookie year, maybe his first year in the playoffs. So there's a lot of things that they struggle with. They don't have any downfield passing at all. Their weapons are very weak. Kincaid's been out for a long time, and they just don't have anybody that can push the ball downfield that they trust. And the defense has been very hit or miss. Some games it's great, some games it's very, very bad. So while I think this could be an opportunity for Josh Allen, it's a lot harder than what people might make it look out to be, especially the fact that they're 1.5 point favorites on the road against a very dangerous Jaguars team. I think that might be giving Josh Allen a little bit too much credit when he could play great, but we've seen him play great in the playoffs, and it's still not be enough when he's had better rosters around him than he does this year.
He definitely has had better rosters before. However, I think this is a time where the Bills are able to get it done. You look at the way James Cook has been playing all year, and that tandem, just having Josh back there with a running back of that caliber, their offensive line is one of the best in the league. And I think they should be able to bully this Jags team, even though the Jags defensive line is very solid. I think they are still susceptible. Josh is going to be able to find ways to pick them apart, and he's not going out in the first round when he sees what everyone else is seeing, that this is a year where he can take it all the way in the AFC, dealing with teams like the Broncos and the Patriots with guys, younger quarterbacks that have not been there before, and this is his chance to really get it going. Trevor Lawrence has had a great year, but that Bills secondary is pretty solid. It's more their pass defense or rush defense that is susceptible, and the Jags just don't have as good of a run game to be able to take advantage of that. And so that's why I think the Bills are going to be able to get it done.
Yeah, it makes sense, but I think the Jaguars have been the hottest team or one of the hottest teams over the last month of the season. They have went into Denver, they won at Denver, they were able to hold off the Texans for that division crown, and Trevor Lawrence has turned it on. He's played the best stretch of games I've seen him play over the last 2 months of the season, and it's been with Jacoby Myers and Parker Washington, two very surprising guys that have stepped up, and that's been the reason because we know BTJ is great, and he was supposed to be the number one receiver for this team after an amazing rookie year. He might be the number three receiver right now because Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers are playing lights out, and when you've got three weapons like that, I don't care how good your pass defense is, you don't have the guys that are able to stop each of those guys, and the Jaguars' run game is good enough to be able to make sure that if the Bills are focused so much on the pass, that they're able to capitalize against that weak group the Bills have stopping the run. Then on the other side of the ball, I think the Jaguars match up really well because the Bills will want to run the football. The Jaguars have not allowed an 80-yard running back this season. And if they're able to do that again and keep James Cook from being able to torment them, I like Jacksonville's chances. Plus, they've been so opportunistic in turnovers, and one bounce of the football could be the difference in this one. So give me the Jaguars at home to take down the Buffalo Bills.
Wow, Brian, we're on opposite sides again. A lot different brackets popping out here, but that's what you'd expect from a couple of Hesse bros. Moving on now to another NFC battle. Two titans of the NFC for the past 4 years. These are the two teams that have made it to the Super Bowl. The 49ers
Yep.
are going to Philadelphia. And Philly's -4.5, Brent. Which of these QB and RB duos do you trust more in this matchup?
Yeah, it's a very fascinating game, like you mentioned. These have been the two teams. There were the Rams got in 1 year, but over the last 5 years, the representatives have been these two teams 4 out of the 5 years with the 49ers and Eagles, and we've seen Purdy in a Super Bowl with McCaffrey. We've seen Saquon in a Super Bowl with Hurts. And the combo that I trust more this season is Purdy and McCaffrey, to be honest with you. But the problem is I don't know if they have anything else around them because of the injuries that the 49ers have had on their defense. Just watching that Seahawks game, the Seahawks looked like they had the 49ers outclassed at almost every single position on the field. And so while I do believe in Purdy and McCaffrey, they're going to have to play sensationally to be able to get this win on the road, I think, because the Eagles, they're going to just play so conservatively that we saw them win in Buffalo. They didn't complete a pass in the second half. We've seen them do that all year long where they've just had bizarre halves and still been able to win games. So I don't know how the Eagles keep doing it. I don't trust what they're doing, but I do trust them as a team more because I think that they have more pieces around these two players.
I don't believe in the Eagles one bit. I haven't all year, and I feel like they've been frauds all year. They're just not that good of a team. Genuinely, they have no idea what they're doing out there on offense. I mean, Saquon has started to turn around a little bit towards the end of the year, but still, I mean, hasn't done anything as special as what McCaffrey and Purdy have been able to. Before last week against the Seahawks, I mean, they were playing for the one. They were playing for the one seed going into that game, and they deserve to be there every step of the way. They've had one of, if not the most explosive offenses in the league, and Purdy is absolutely throwing dimes. I mean, Kittle is playing like one of the best tight ends in the league, and they have enough weapons with McCaffrey to be able to put up what all they're going to need is 20 points, and they're going to be able to beat the Eagles because the Eagles are not going to score that much. Like, there's no way. Even though the Niners' defense has been pretty bad all year, especially because they had those injuries, but I feel like the Eagles just are not going to be able to put it together here. So give me the 49ers.
Really? You like them outright?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting, Luke. So we are on oppo sides for the third straight game as we head into the Sunday night matchup. Chargers at Patriots, Luke. And this is a very interesting game, I think, for a lot of reasons. The coaches, that's their first for Vrabel, it's his first year in New England. Harbaugh's second year trying to get that first playoff win for Herbert. Though for the quarterbacks, Herbert's third playoff game, and both of them have been colossal failures. For May, he's trying to win the MVP. I know that a playoff doesn't count for the MVP voting, but for where he's trying to already be in the playoff, in the quarterback conversation, what could a playoff win do for each of these quarterbacks that both feel like they should be in that top five quarterback conversation?
Well, Brent, I think if they have a good game in this one, it pretty much puts them right there. I think it puts them up into that level where you're talking about them like a Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Mahomes, and Burrow. I think the winner of this game, the way that they've played for their career so far, like Herbert has, and being able to take that jump in the playoffs, or for May, having this exceptional season and really just looking the part while doing it, doing everything right, looking like he's going to be a great quarterback of the future. I think the winner of this game, and if they're able to continue a playoff run, is going to put themselves in that same conversation as those other guys.
I think that's very valid. I think the winner of this game definitely has a case to say they're in that top four. I think, especially with the way Burrow's season's ended, and obviously Lamar and Mahomes are both out of the playoffs too. There's spots open that we didn't think maybe would have been open in that Mount Rushmore of current quarterbacks. And the winner of this game definitely has the first ticket chance to get there. So who do you like in this one and why?
Well, Brent, I'm going with the Chargers. I said earlier on this podcast that they were cooked, but I think that Harbaugh has found out what he needs to do to be able to get the offense going without having their star offensive tackles. And Herbert's getting the ball out quick, making great plays, and that's the type of thing they're going to need to be able to do against the Patriots. They've got Omarion Hampton back, and I can see them putting up a big amount of points on this New England team. We saw what the Bills did where they put up those 35 points in like 3 quarters, 2.5 quarters whenever they played against them. And I could see the Chargers having a similar run where Herbert just gets on fire and starts cooking them. Meanwhile, Drake May, he doesn't have the type of weapons that Herbert has on the other side of the ball. I mean, Diggs is good, but he's getting older, and I just don't think they're as reliable to be able to get it done as the Chargers are. And I think that the Chargers also have one of the most underrated defenses of the NFL this year. And I think they're going to show why they are really solid here coming up this weekend.
This is, I think, is the toughest game for me to decipher. Just because, like you said, the Chargers, if they can give Herbert a little bit of time, they can be extremely dangerous. And I think the Patriots, that's one of their weaknesses is their pass rush. So maybe Herbert will have that extra second to be able to find players. And for the Patriots, they haven't been that proven this year. Their only playoff matchups really been against the Bills. They haven't played any other playoff caliber teams all season long. So it is a tough one. I just have seen Herbert in the playoffs, and I don't expect that to be him for his career. But I don't think this is the week against the coach that's going to be coach of the year, against the quarterback that's could win MVP, and a team that's playing really well in the Patriots. While they haven't played that competition, they just do everything right, and I think the Chargers just have too many flaws, especially with that offensive line. And I think while their defense is better, I think the Patriots are going to be able to put up points on them as well. So I lean Patriots in the game, but at 3.5, I would take the Chargers. I'd take it by a field goal. So I'll take Patriots to win, but if I need the points, I'll take 3.5 and get a field goal with the Chargers. But we're picking different teams, I guess, again, huh, Luke?
Yeah, it looks like it. Wow, we really are on opposite sides here. Hopefully you're real wrong this week, Brent. It'll be good for me on the books.
Yeah. I wish the same for you, brother. Well,
Might as well just bet against each other.
one final game. We've got the Monday night game, and it is Texans at Steelers, Luke. This is a game the Steelers got in on the very last play of the regular season. They're 3-point home dogs. It's Aaron Rodgers, the 43-year-old quarterback, the four-time MVP quarterback versus the number one pass rush in the NFL. I think it's the matchup of the whole weekend, really. Who wins this matchup, Rodgers versus this daunting pass rush?
I mean, yeah, this game is just it's just mind-boggling. I don't even know what to think about it. I think Rodgers is probably just going to try to get the ball out of his hands as quickly as possible, and the Texans defense is going to be hounding them, not letting them get a whole lot of yards. It's going to be a low-scoring game. We know that for sure. The Steelers, though, I think they've won all their Monday Night Football games at home for the past 30 years or something?
Yep, since well before Tomlin's been there. I think through all of Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin.
It's absolutely insane. And the Steelers being home underdogs, it's like this is the type of team that thrives in that scenario. Mm-hmm. But they can't win in the wild card round. We've seen that that's why Mike Tomlin's on the hot seat, because he can't win games like this. So it really is just a debacle. I don't even know what to think about it, Brent. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a conundrum, no doubt about it. And the Texans, meanwhile, they've been able to win these wild card matchups each of the last 2 years. They defeated an AFC North team in the Browns, and then last year the Chargers. The difference was both of those, they were at home because they were division winners. Now going on the road, I think it makes it a whole lot tougher. But I watched Rodgers against a ferocious pass rusher 2 weeks ago, and they scored 6 points as he was running for his life, trying to not let Myles Garrett get the sack record. Props to Garrett for getting it last week. So that's, I think, the deciding factor is, can C.J. Stroud get to 14 points? Because I think that's all it's going to take to win this game. So I like the Texans in this spot just because I think the pass rush is going to make it so tough on Rodgers. Even against the Ravens, Rodgers, outside of those 3 plays, I guess, he had 3 plays down the field. He had that great seam to Adam Thielen. He had one to Freiermuth, and then the touchdown where the guy slipped. Outside of that, every single passing play was just run after the catch. He threw it at the line of scrimmage, and the guy ran down the field. So they're going to have to try to do stuff like that against the Texans, and I think the Texans defense is just in a different class than the Ravens. I think that those two teams, I think both the Ravens and the Steelers are very flawed, and it didn't matter who was going to win that game. I was going to like the Texans in this matchup. Now, DK coming back, maybe that gives the Steelers a little bit of a different dimension. But I like the Texans with those young guys on offense. Hutchinson stepping up, or not Hutchinson, but Higgins and Knoll both stepping up, and then Woody Marks in the backfield. I think their offense will have enough. So give me the Texans on the road. But all those things you mentioned, Steelers as home dogs Monday night, Rodgers in the playoffs, it definitely makes for a good Monday night showdown to end out the wild card weekend.
It's just got to be a close game. I feel like that spread at 3 points, I think it's going to be Texans by a field goal. But I don't know. It's going to be quite the one to watch for. And whoever makes it out of that game is going to have a strong case. Rodgers might be able to make a run to the Super Bowl, and certainly the Texans have the pieces to be able to do it as well in that AFC. So it's a huge matchup.
So you taking Texans, though, on the money line if you had to pick a winner?
Yep, gotta go with the Texans there.
Okay, Luke. Well, we pretty much already talked about these, so we'll go through them quickly. But our best picks of the week out of all the ones. What's your favorite upset on the board? You had a couple that you liked.
Yep, gotta rock with the Chargers money line against the Patriots.
Mine is the Jaguars. I like the Jaguars at home, better team at home against the Bills. Now, my favorite lock is the one we just talked about. I think the Texans at 3-point favorites. I think they'll win this game because I don't think the Steelers can score more than 10. So give me the Texans to win and be able to cover.
I'm going with the Bills as my lock. Shut that upset down real quick.
And our favorite prop picks, I'm going back to our very first game we talked about. Devontae Adams is back, but they're working him back in. And Puka's been a beast recently. Puka touchdowns plus 100. It's even money. So that's just because Devontae Adams is back, but I think they'll still be able to get Puka the ball a lot as they work Adams back in, especially there'll be a lot of opportunities to score, I think, against the Panthers.
Fair enough, Brent. I like that Puka TD, and I'm going with Christian McCaffrey over 109.5 total yards, rushing and receiving. They're going to be feeding him, and he's going to be able to get it done against that Eagles team that is going to be trying to stop Purdy from getting, down the field balls. McCaffrey's just going to be getting those checkdowns, getting the handoffs. And they're going to feed him the ball. They know who their best player is, and they're going to let it be known to everyone.
Well, Luke, now it is time for the thirstiest segment in all of sports podcasting and Hesse Bros content. And it's time for a 12-pack, man. I've been parched for a while. So we only got 14 teams to discuss.
All right, Brent.
But I'm only
see
gonna
who you got in here for the nice little 12-pack.
I'm only going to include 12 of them. So we'll start at number 12. I got the Chicago Bears. We talked about this team that's kind of coming in, limping into the playoffs, losers of each of their last two games they were trying to win in both instances. So the Bears, first-year quarterback and head coach in the playoffs that is coming in a little bit shaky. I don't have much confidence in them. I got them at 12. At number 11 is the Chargers. This is a team that I think could make a run, but the offensive line questions is just too much to overcome. I think that's the hardest thing we talked about it, Luke. The hardest thing to overcome is bad offensive line play, and we've seen that be the downfall of the Chiefs in playoffs of years past and this year, and the Lions as well. So the Chargers are number 11 because of that. At number 10 is the Packers. They come in really on a slide as well, but they're getting Jordan Love back, and I think that could make a huge difference. He hasn't played since that loss to the Bears. Their weapons are good. If Josh Jacobs is healthy, they got Jaden Reed back, Christian Watson's electric, and obviously they're missing Parsons on the other side, but they had a good defense last year before him. I think they can at least find something enough to be adequate, and I got them at 10. Then number 9 is going to be the San Francisco 49ers. They're another team that's super banged up, but they have maybe the coach I trust the most out of anybody left in Shanahan, and a quarterback and a running back combo that has been able to make big plays in big moments. So at number 9 is the 49ers. The defense questions, I can't have them any higher. At number 8 is the Denver Broncos, a team we didn't talk about this week because they got the 1 seed, but they're another team that I'm not really buying. Their last 3 games, they got blown out at home by another playoff contender, and then they snuck out wins against B teams of the Chiefs and the Chargers. So the Broncos don't come in riding very high for me. Got them at number 8. And then the bottom half of this 12-pack, Luke, will finish off with the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, great quarterback. James Cook, great running back. Outside of that, I don't know really what else they have on this team. So that is my 7 through 12 on the 12-pack, Luke.
Brent, that's looking pretty good. I would move the Chargers up a little bit higher. I think that they're in a good spot. It looks like you left off the Steelers and the Panthers, which makes sense because those are the 2 teams that we were in agreement are going to be knocked out of the playoffs in the first round. So I'm with you on that. But I think Chargers got to move up a little bit. And besides that, let's see the way you finish off this nice little 12-pack. What's those last 6 looking like?
At number 6, we've got Drake May and the Patriots. just don't know where to put them. They're an unproven team, so I've got them right around the middle of the pack amongst all the playoff teams, and we'll see what they end up doing. They've got a very big test on that first game, like you already talked about. Number five is the defending Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. The defense has gotten better as the season's gone along. Saquon's getting stronger. Some games A.J. Brown is great. Some games Jalen Hurts can't complete a pass. I don't know. Number five for the Eagles. At number four, and these top four teams are the ones I really like a lot. Jaguars. They've been growing on me as this season has gone on. Trevor Lawrence, I'm believing in what he's doing. I love the receiving core, like we already talked about, and the defense is getting better. They still are more of an opportunistic big play defense. They'll give up the yards and they'll even give up some points, but they make some big plays when they need to and get a lot of turnovers. So I got the Jaguars at four. At number three is the Rams. Stafford, he's probably the best quarterback in these playoffs, or at least the most trustworthy quarterback when it comes to playoffs. We've already seen him win a Super Bowl, and he's on an MVP type season this year. So, and you give them the weapons of Puka, and now Devontae Adams is back with that coaching staff. The defense has slid a little bit in the last month or two of the season, so that's why I don't have them at number one, but I do have them at number three. Number two is the Seahawks, who 2 through 22 have the best roster in the NFL. There's no question about it. They outplayed the 49ers in every aspect of the game, but they were still barely winning by a possession late because their quarterback couldn't throw for 200 yards against a team that has been giving up 300 yards to everybody. And Darnold almost made a couple of really costly mistakes in that game too. 49ers just couldn't capitalize on. Darnold finally won a big game, but he didn't look that impressive in doing so. So I still have my doubts that he won't make a costly mistake over the course of trying to do a three-game playoff run, which leaves number one as the Houston Texans, who come in riding the longest winning streak in the NFL currently. They have the best defense in the NFL. They have a quarterback and a head coach that have won a playoff game in each of the last 2 years, so they know how to win in January. They have a great defense. They have young weapons that are getting better each week with Higgins, with Noel. You've already got Nico Collins. Dalton Schultz is a tight end that I trust. Woody Marks is getting better each week. So this is my pick is the Houston Texans, and I've got them at the top of my 12 pack.
Wow, Brent. Up there at the top of the 12 pack, that got pretty good. In the middle, Jags and the Eagles, top five. I mean, that's pretty crazy. Everybody get bounced out real quick. We're going to see they were supposed to be nowhere near that. But besides that, I kind of like what you're doing there at the top of the 12 pack, and it makes me wonder, Brent, what do you have for your NFC Championship and AFC predictions and the Super Bowl? I feel like we got to get it out here before the playoffs start. And, what do you got for us, Brent?
Well, I have to change mine up a little bit from last time, Luke, because I had the Texans winning the AFC, but I can't remember even who I had them beating in the AFC Championship. Might have been the Ravens, might have been the Patriots. I don't know. Either way, I don't like either of those two teams anymore to make the AFC Championship. Obviously not the Ravens. So I like the Texans over the Jaguars in the AFC Championship. I think the Texans go into Denver. Denver's one and done. Jacksonville beats New England. So it's Texans over Jaguars in the AFC Championship. In the NFC, it's those 2 and 3 teams. They play for a third time. And I'm going to take the Rams over the Seahawks. I think that the Rams beat Seattle, and first Seattle beats the Packers, and the Rams beat the Eagles. Then the Rams beat the Seahawks, and it's Rams-Texans Super Bowl. And they're at the top of my 12-pack for a reason. You can still get them 12-1 right now to win the Super Bowl. Houston Texans, baby.
I like that Texans pick, Brent. I was on them to make it to the Super Bowl against the Lions last time that we had this. Well, unfortunately, the Lions cannot make it, but I'm still going with the Texans. I'm actually going to have them beating the Los Angeles Chargers to make it into the Super Bowl. The AFC is just so wide open. I know, and I have the Texans getting that home game against the Bills in the second round. Meanwhile, the Chargers are going to go the Chargers are going to go to Denver, knock them out,
Wow,
and it's
I
going to
never
be
even thought about
Texans
that, Luke.
hosting.
That's right. You do have all the wild card teams in the AFC winning, so the
Yep.
Texans would get two home games as the 5 seed in your bracket.
That's right. I
That's
mean, this
insane.
is nuts, but this is how it's going to be going down. And switch over to the NFC. I only have one home team winning there, and it's the Bears. So, I mean, this is absolutely nuts. I'm going to have the Bears losing that game to the Rams. I think it's pretty straightforward here. The NFC West has ran the NFC this year, especially with those Packers injuries. And so, yeah, the Bears are going to get knocked out by the Rams. Seahawks take care of business against the 49ers and against the Rams in the NFC Championship. And then give me Sam Darnold to hoist
Oh,
the Lombardi
the
trophy.
pumpkin man.
I mean, that would be something else. But mainly, it's because defense wins championships. The Texans and the Seahawks have had the absolute two best defenses in the NFL this year. And the way Mike McDonald, his defense is playing right now, it's looking like they're absolutely hitting their peak at the right time. What they did to the 49ers cannot be overstated in that last matchup, Week 18. And so I feel like they're going to be able to keep that rolling, and Darnold can do just enough to be able to get it done for him in February.
Hey, I can't fault that too much, Luke, because I have the same NFC Championship matchup. But I just cannot picture Darnold hoisting Lombardi. It just does not compute in my brain. I don't think he's I don't think he's good enough to be able to do that. I just don't think he's consistent enough to be able to do that. He hates the big moments. So I'll take Texans over Rams. Luke's got Seahawks over Texans. Those are our final Super Bowl predictions, and that will be the end of our wacky wild card episode. Well, Luke, glad we were able to get past the first part of this episode and get talking about the playoffs because they are going to be very exciting. A lot of fun games to watch this weekend and going forward the rest of the way.
Enjoy some football this weekend, y'all, and go Hoosiers.
That's right. Hoosiers, another big one on Friday to start the weekend. Thanks for tuning in to the Hesse Bros pod, and we'll be back next week to talk some more football.